All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Buck the System. I'm your host, David West, and I hope that you guys all had a good Christmas. I know my family and I certainly did, although then in the ensuing days since, our kids have gotten sick, and I've come down with a bit of a cold too. So if you think that I look and sound terrible, you're not wrong. That's why this episode's a little later than I hoped it would be, and also why it's a different episode than I hoped it would be. I'm currently working on two big episodes. I'm working on one that is a breakdown of an atheist review of my Pilgrim's Progress film that I made a couple years ago. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's been a fair bit of work to get put together. That will be dropping either Monday or Tuesday next week. And then also dropping is the first in a trilogy of episodes where I introduce my wife to the Star Wars movies. She's never seen them. So we've been watching through them. At the time of recording this, she has watched the original Star Wars from 1977 and The Empire Strikes Back. And we're going to hopefully watch Return of the Jedi tonight. We were going to try to do it last night, but our kids were throwing up and I was starting to come down and being sick too. So it didn't happen. That's going to be a lot of fun. She's a complete blank slate. So I'm really curious to see what someone who's never been exposed to these movies thinks of them, and in particular, what they think about some of the controversies that have plagued some of these films over the years. So we'll see. It'll be fun. There will be an episode about her watching the original trilogy, an episode about the prequels, and then an episode about all the new sequel trilogy films. So that first one will be dropping early next week, and I think you guys will have fun with it. Since those episodes are both taking a little longer than I thought, I wanted to get something out today before the end of the week. And there was a story on my Facebook news feed that I just thought would be perfect to talk about. And it is about a law in Oregon that was passed sometime in the last year and goes into effect, I believe, on January 1st. Now, normally when we're talking about laws going into effect in Oregon on January 1st, we're talking about just abject tyrannical garbage. In this case, surprisingly, it's a good law. And unfortunately, but unsurprisingly, a lot of people don't like it. So the law we're talking about here is one that would allow bicyclists to roll through stop signs if there isn't anybody there, basically. If there's no oncoming traffic that poses a danger, if there's no pedestrians they could hit, they can roll through the stop sign without stopping. That's it. I don't know why anyone would have a problem with that law. It gives us more freedom. It makes it so that cops can't ticket somebody and steal their money for the absolute non-crime of rolling through a stop sign when nobody was there on a bicycle, of all things. And it's just funny because when I first started hearing about this, I never would have thought it would have been controversial. I thought it would be something that people would have shrugged at and been like, oh, that makes sense. But every single news story about it seems to be mostly coming from the angle of, oh, this is dangerous. What do you guys think about this? And then most of the comments are people opposed to it. Let me read you this local article about this. Starting on the first day of the new year, Oregon bicyclists will be allowed to roll through stop signs. This move comes under the new enrolled Senate Bill 998 that was passed by the Senate on June 18, 2019, and the House on June 25, 2019. Lieutenant Boudreau with the Medford Police Department explained, quote, "It's going to allow bike riders to not come to a complete stop, so they can keep their momentum moving forward, but they still have to yield." Josh Butler, a Medford bicyclist, shared his thoughts on how this will impact bicyclists and drivers. You should still be really cautious with that. Depending on where I'm at, I'm still going to stop no matter what because I've had experiences people have gone through them. I've had experience. That sentence doesn't make very much sense the way it's written. Butler added, "I don't want to get hit, and I don't think other people would want to get hit, so you should still stop." Butler explained he's had some close calls with drivers while on his bike. You can be riding along in a path in a cross street, have the right of way, and a car do a rolling stop and still be going past the stop sign. That's how I got hit before, said Butler. Okay, so that you went through when there was a car coming and you got hit. Like, I don't know how this is even pertinent to the issue of you can roll through a stop sign when there's not a car here. Because of the incident, he now assumes that drivers do not see him or look at him and advises others to be cautious while riding regardless of the new bill. I have a bike that I ride around town a fair bit. I mean, that's obviously smart. You're pretty vulnerable when you're on a bike. I don't know why anyone would act differently at all. Lieutenant Boudreau agreed. Laws like this apply to really everyone. They need to remember that everyone needs to take part in traffic safety. Everyone has to look out for each other, whether you're on a bicycle or in a car, he added. You got to look out for one another to avoid potential collisions. As for how this new law will impact the Medford community, Lieutenant Boudreau does not believe that there will be much changes. In the past, MPD has not cited bicyclists unless they have caused an accident. I think the real thing to take away here is to realize that bicyclists still have to yield to other vehicles and pedestrians. That doesn't change, he added. They don't have to come to a complete stop, but they cannot proceed regardless unless it's clear, unless they're not going to risk striking someone else, said Lieutenant Boudreau. If an accident is caused due to bicyclists failing to yield, they may be fined $250. Okay, so I don't see why that's controversial. Even the bicyclist they talked to in it is just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll sometimes still stop completely. But if you read the comments on the news story, it is abundantly clear that almost none of the people commenting read the comments. And if they did, then they're just nasty little authoritarians. There are 337 comments on this article, and I mean, the majority of them are negative. Let's just go through and read some of these. I will always stop at stop sign if I'm riding a bike. I was hit by a truck turning right when I was going through a green light. I would usually push the crosswalk button, but I didn't that time because the light turned green right before I got to it. Here's another comment. Well, here we go. Looks like I see more accidents on the rise. Real smart. Angry face, angry face, angry face. If a car has to stop and wait there, turn. Oh my gosh. I can't even hardly read these comments because they're using like the wrong form of there and stuff, and so it's very confusing. If a car has to stop and wait their turn, so should a bicycle or a pedestrian. This really is irritating. OMG, that's so stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's a stop sign. Shouldn't the laws be for all vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians to come to a stop and look and go when it's clear? My kids, when they ride their bikes, another person who can't use the right form of there, when they ride their bikes, are to come to a stop and then when it's clear, ride or walk their bikes across the intersection. And she consistently uses the wrong form of there. The bicyclists still have to stop if there are other cars at the stop sign. This only counts if there are no vehicles around. If the bicyclists are smart, there won't be any issues. Oh, look, someone who actually read the article and thought for themselves. Oh, stop signs. I misread and thought it said stop lights. Okay, I got it. Yikes. They can't at least yield at a stop sign? A bunch of people will die because of this new law. Yikes. Oh my goodness. This is someone who read things wrong and thought it said stoplights, then realized it said stop signs and is still angry and says, yikes, can't they at least yield at a stop sign? That's what they have to do. They have to yield. They can roll through if there's no one there. That is the most ridiculous and stupidest idea for a bicyclist. If they roll through a stop sign when someone is coming from the cross traffic, then they will be hit. Yeah, that's why the law says that they're not supposed to roll a stop sign when someone's coming in cross traffic. They're only supposed to do it when a car isn't there. Once again, these people do not read. I really don't know how people manage to even function with this level of reading comprehension skills. Dumbest thing I've ever read. These bicyclists come out of nowhere, and at night or early morning, they don't wear any reflectors. Brilliant. The lawsuits are going to pop up like weeds after a spring rain. So the rules of the road don't really apply to bicyclists then. Oh, here's an idea. Let's make it okay for vehicles to roll through stop signs. Since it's allowed for bicyclists, it's okay for vehicles too, right? Actually, yeah. I would argue that there are a lot of stop signs that should just be yield signs. I'm not going to read too many more of these. I've just been going through and randomly reading them. I haven't pre-selected the worst ones. It's just almost all the people, maybe as much as 90% of the people in here are opposed to this. It's really weird because one, it's like these people don't realize that cyclists are already often just doing this when there's no one around. I ride my bike around town, and oftentimes when I come to a stop sign, I can look, as I'm approaching it, I can look both ways and see, okay, there's no one for hundreds of yards, and I'll just ride right through it. Why wouldn't I? I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of other people on bikes do the same thing. And the other thing that cracks me up is it's like these people have never driven in a residential neighborhood and realized that there are a lot of intersections that have no signage whatsoever, really. Just kind of an implied, look out before you drive through, an implied yield, or just a yield one direction and nothing the other way. That's a very common thing. All the intersections within a couple blocks of my house in our little residential neighborhood are that way. They're just, just don't blow through it. Yeah, it cracks me up. These people are not thinking this through at all. Did they pass this law in hopes that the crackheads ride bicycles and will die? Is this their way of saving on jail time or dealing with addiction? It is not very bright, as not everyone that ride bikes are a liability to society. Freaking Oregon comes up with some asinine laws. Gonna be a lot of dead bicyclists, especially at night. Guys, if people were going to roll through a stop sign in a dangerous manner, the stop sign was never going to stop them anyway. People who are just going to blow through without looking were the exact idiots who were already getting hit by bikes because they couldn't pay attention. This isn't going to change anything. Literally, all this is going to do is make it so that if you're riding and you look around and it's clear, but there's some cop hiding in a parking lot halfway down the block and they see you roll through the stop sign, they can't come and vindictively give you a ticket, which, according to the Medford Police Department, they already didn't do. It sounds like this was already essentially the way it worked because they wouldn't give bicyclists tickets unless they caused an accident. Because everybody recognizes, if they're actually paying attention and thinking about it and not just knee-jerk getting pissed off at a new law that gives us a tiny bit more freedom, everyone already realized that it worked. And you know what's funny to me is that also going into effect on January 1st is another law, which is much more obnoxious, and that is Oregon's ban on single-use plastic bags. They are banning single-use plastic bags from grocery stores, and they are, on top of that, requiring a 5-cent per bag tax for paper bags. I've been using paper bags most of my life. My dad was a logger, so we always wanted to support the logging industry and get paper bags. We never really did the plastic bags that much. And, some places like Walmart mostly seem to only have plastic bags, so of course there we would. But whenever possible, we already always went for the paper bags, and I still do that. In many ways, I prefer them. It's, if a business wanted to do this and wanted to charge people for bags, whatever, that's their prerogative. It's ridiculous that the government is forcing this on us. But apparently, according to most of my neighbors, this is cool. When you look at the articles about the paper bag ban, most of the articles seem to be more in favor of it than they are of like this new bicycle law. And the comments are all much, much, much more positive. Here's an article. It says, "Are you bag ban ready? Here's how some are preparing." And they interview some shoppers in the article. If I didn't have my own bags, I would probably be a little upset. On the other hand, I understand why they're doing that, said Glenna Walker, who was shopping at the store on Thursday. I think it's a great idea, and I'm hoping more people will use their own bags, she added. Look, I have no problem with reusable bags if that's what you want to use. I find it annoying. I'd rather get paper bags or even plastic bags because I actually use those things. I reuse all of our plastic bags as like little garbage bags and little mini bathroom garbage cans. They work great for that. I reuse paper bags as like freestanding garbage bags in my office and stuff. I'll stand them up, fold them open, maybe roll down the top a little bit, throw garbage in there, and it works great. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by any of this. I mean, at this point, I'm not that surprised, but it's still always disappointing to remember that basically everyone around you, all of your neighbors, most of your friends and family, most of the people that you love and care about, hate freedom. Most of them would take it from you in a second if they just didn't understand an issue or if they had some emotional reason to be opposed to you having freedom. How anyone could have a problem with this bike law is truly beyond me. And I actually think a lot of these people don't have a problem with it. They just don't realize what's going on here because they don't read. Most of the people around you are pretty stupid and they don't like freedom. And that's kind of sobering, but it's something we need to be aware of because it's a reality we've got to deal with. One kind of funny thing that I was thinking about earlier today as I was just shaking my head at these articles is there's so many people out there who, especially a lot of them claim to be libertarians, who are super, super, super anti-immigration. And they're always screeching about, white genocide this and demographics problems that. And their logic is always, oh, well, you can't have a free society when you're bringing in people who don't believe in freedom. We can't be importing all these third world people who don't believe in freedom and who are going to vote for us to have less freedom. And then you see something like this, and it's like, guys, you're so stupid. Our neighbors, our white, natural-born American citizen neighbors are like the biggest threat to our freedom. I mean, look at these people. They all want to be able to steal money from you because you didn't come to a complete stop when there's nobody around at a stop sign. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I mean, in some respects, at least people moving here from these so-called third world countries might have a little bit laxer traffic standards there and won't see any problems with this at all. Anyway, so this is not a particularly big or groundbreaking story or anything. I just thought it was kind of humorous, and I thought it was a good sort of everyday example of just how much the people around you do not like freedom and are incapable of critically analyzing anything and coming to a reasonable conclusion. So that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. I will be back Monday and Tuesday with some much, much, much bigger episodes that are going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. Please, if you're enjoying what I'm doing on here, subscribe and hit the bell so you get notifications. And I will see you all more soon. Take care. Bye.